I'm Travis Brown, founder and CEO of Mojo Up Marketing and Media. And this is my podcast where I talk to the most successful Black and brown business executives who've broken through the barriers of today's business culture. Welcome to Mojo Up Live, the diverse and talented podcast. I'm your host, Travis Brown, and today I have William Knox. He's the founder and CEO of Legacy Sports. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I first met you because your son, one of your sons was on a basketball team and didn't know who you were at the time, and then figured out that you're really a big baller. So a mover, shaker, making things happen. But you live in the kind of the sports world, but a little bit differently because you do some cool things. Walk me through a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I live in kind of what we call that sports tourism space, a little different than the traditional sports, but we really look to help communities kind of transform their destinations through sports. So when we say sports tourism, that's anything that is a sporting event that can move from location to location. So you're very involved in the basketball scene, any AAU style event, EYBL, anything that can kind of come to a destination and then go to another destination is the space that we kind of work in. And really what we do on a day-to-day basis is help communities figure out how they can do more of that.
I think that's interesting because we're in an environment today where like sports, especially at the youth level, is just such an important part of every single community, right? The ones that grow and thrive. So when you think about like the sports that are thriving that you're really working with, like what are some of the sports that have just taken us to the next level?
Well, you know, when we look at the traditional sports like basketball, the footballs of the world, and those continue to grow, and there's a ton of kids still participating in them. There's a lot of non-traditional sports, what are mostly kind of those individual sports that are starting to kind of rise up a little bit with the racket sports and the things of that nature. But I'm a football guy at the core of who I am. My dad played professionally. My brother and my dad both played at Purdue. I unfortunately didn't make it to the collegiate ranks, but played at a high level in high school. And that's where my kids' passions are now, and that's kind of what's developing. And I'm very intrigued by what's happening with 7-on-7 and kind of evolution of the game and kind of where we're going, because a lot of people are concerned about contact and all that stuff. So.
Well, that's right where my head went, and I'm going to jump into some of your background in a second. But let me ask you this. So I had a buddy of mine who played in the NFL. He looked at me and said, "Hey, when are you going to let Braden, my son who's 7, when or are you going to let him play?" And I thought, I don't know. I played high school. I played college, and so I'm torn because obviously I love the game. I feel like they've taken a lot of the violence out of the game. I played corner, and our job was to blow people up, and now you can't actually do that. You got to pull their flag on an NFL game. But but this flag football, this 7-on-7, has taken over. And what my thought was, I said, he's probably going to be a skill guy just based upon size. I can let him play, skill-wise, 5th, 6th, 7th grade almost. Absolutely. Because he's still going to develop those different things. What's your philosophy on this whole concussion and collision sport and versus flag? Yeah,
so my wife is a sports med doc. She has delivered numerous discussions or had numerous talks on concussions. I've got an 8 and an 11-year-old. You know AJ, 8-year-old. He's going to be a lineman, not a skillsman. He's going to be on the line, and we struggled with when it was okay for them to start playing. Now, we let them both start playing at 5th grade when they were able to kind of matriculate up to the tackle here in Fishers. But it was one of those scenarios where it took a lot for me to convince her, and it also took a lot for me to look at the program itself to understand what they were doing. So fortunately, where we are, we're in a location that really looks to do things the right way. A lot of the coaches, all of the coaches are mandated to have certain training and regimented, kind of processes that they go through to make sure they know how to teach the game. So that made me feel a little comfortable. Otherwise, if I was in a location where I didn't have that level of comfort, I would stick with, because to your point, especially skill positions, they're developing that, those things that they need to learn with that sport kind of without the contact.
Let me take you back, because I want to dive into some of your past a little bit to get to where you are today. But back all the way up to where you're from, where'd you go to school? Give me that trajectory.
So I'm a Hoosier through and through. Born and raised in Gary, Indiana. Went to Gary Westside, hence the colors of the Jays, okay. the orange and blue.
I like it.
That fed into the thematic color scheme for my company as in Legacy Sports Group. But born and raised in Gary, have a lot of family still there. I get up there a lot. Wonderful upbringing there. Then went down to IU.
Well, let me pause for a second, because I want you to say that a little bit louder, because I think when people hear Gary, the next thing out of their mouth, they don't typically think, stereotypically, wonderful upbringing.
Absolutely. I had an amazing upbringing. A lot of my family was around me during that time. And while when you hear Gary, you think of all those negative connotations that come with it, that for me, it felt like that was on the outside, because I had a very insulated group of family and community that kind of helped get me through all that. So fortunately for me, I got out of there, was able to do good things, and kind of still here with you talking today.
That's right. All right, so from Gary, what next?
IU. So, let me run it down real quick. Mom, dad, brother, sister, all Purdue grads.
Okay, they have some sense in the family.
They a little bit. I went to IU. At the time, I thought I was going to go there and walk on and play football. I had some scholarship offers. A lot of my friends were going to IU, and I was like, yeah, what am I going to do here? So finally made a decision to go to IU, was thinking about walking on, got to the campus, got consumed in college life, and was like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. But spent time there at IU, and that's where I really kind of honed in on my craft. I wasn't the best student coming out of high school. Candidly, my counselor in high school told my mom that I should probably look at some other opportunities, because I might not make it. Got myself together when I was in college, really kind of grew there a lot, and then stayed there for 10 years. I got hired by who I consider to be one of my biggest advocates and still my mentor today. A young lady by the name of Valerie Pena hired me on as an intern, and then graduated up and started doing sales for her, started doing sports, ended up being able to kind of resurrect a sports commission that they had there that kind of went defunct back in the 80s, brought that back. We were able to do a lot of tremendous events there with the university and do a lot of good things there. So I will say, I enjoyed my time when I was at home, but I grew and developed into who I am today kind of when I was in Bloomington. So.
I mean, my wife has IU ties, and of course I'm from West Lafayette, and went to Purdue. So we always say everybody has their flaws, and we can get past those. But and we have we split office too, IU and Purdue. But okay, so I picked you up about the time when you were at Grand Park.
Yep.
So talk about, because that's a massive undertaking. Yeah. When did you come along with that? What was your role there? Yeah. Because that's a super important piece of what youth sports started to look like across the country.
I was very fortunate. So I relocated here to Hamilton County in 2009. That was right around the time where they were kind of talking about this potential development, and they didn't know where it was going to go at the time. There's a lot of conversation around, does it go to Fishers? Does it go to Carmel? Does it go to Westfield? Or is it Noblesville? And the mayor of Westfield at the time liked the idea and said, you know what, we need to figure out how we can continue to develop infrastructure for our youth sports initiatives. So why not look at also, capturing some additional revenue and looking at this tourism side. Westfield was a bedroom community of Indianapolis, so they didn't have any major industry, no major factories or anything there. So the mayor says, you know what, instead of me going out and giving Honda $20 million to come locate here, I'm going to develop this ecosystem that generates this additional tax base for our city. And that's what happened. So I was fortunate enough to be on the front end of the development and served on his commission to kind of flesh out the concept. Then was through my role at Hamilton County Sports Authority, was able to market and develop the complex for 9 years, and then actually managed the campus for a 5-year period. And now our company has a consulting relationship with the campus where we do a lot of their marketing, business development, and sales.
And so, now thinking about your current company and looking at opportunities out there. So what are you guys focused on now? And I know it's not just local. So what are you focused on now?
Yeah, we're really looking to go in and help communities kind of transform their destination through sport. That's kind of our tagline. We go in and trying to do assessments within communities who are looking to do maybe not what Grand Park has done for Westville, but something similar. We try to go in and help them shape strategies around how they do that and what that looks like. Some instances that leads to a facility development conversation, and other instances that leads to developing a rec football program. So we just kind of come in and kind of help shape and guide individuals as to what they should do in that space.
And you know, I'm interested to hear your perspective on this pickleball craze. Pickleball is kind of like this new thing that pops up. We're actually in conversation with a major pickleball company, so we didn't talk about that. But like this is the thing that is real to stay with what they're doing with pickleball.
Very real. And you know, so I'm starting to learn the game. I took tennis lessons for all of 2 days when I was young.
About me, I probably did that at some all sports camp. And there's like the phase of tennis. You're like, I'm not cut out for this.
Not for me. The hand-eye coordination was not there at the time, so I'm picking it up now. But amazing sport. Not only, you know, a lot of it grew out of individuals that were kind of phasing out of their tennis careers that still want to do something, but you know, knees had gotten a little shot from all the impact, so it's a low-impact sport. But now, you know, there's a lot of development around what could happen at the collegiate, high school, and youth level. So I believe it's fully here to stay. You know, it's, amazingly enough, I just went to Illinois a couple weeks ago to look at some temporary floors because we're interested in doing an event at Grand Park. So it's an amazing sport. I'm learning it. Hopefully, you know, once LeBron James got involved in it, it's like, okay, something's going to happen here.
But if you think about it, like, so now you have all these celebrities buying teams, get into leagues, and there's some ownership opportunities and investment and stuff like that. Because it's this thing that, whether you're young or whether you're old, there's some symmetry of being able to play.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you've played. It's my wife and I. We went and played. And it was like the first time we've ever played like as a couple, right? And we're, you know, I'm 46. She's younger than I am, and we go to play this first couple. They're like got to be 10, 12 years older than us at least, right? And then they smoked us, and you're going, what just happened? Like I'm still like I'm an athlete, you know. Now really I'm a washed up athlete, but in my mind I'm like I'm an athlete, and this person who's in their 60s just smoked us, right? I don't know if you had this experience, if you played yet, but this is a real thing. That's a real thing too.
So I had while I was up in Illinois the other day, I had the pleasure of working with a pro who's on the senior tour, and he was giving me a few lessons, and then we kind of started going back, and it's all about finesse with that sport. It's amazing because even with the difference between men's and women's, you know, there's a lot of women's players that I couldn't even come close to competing with. So it's an amazing sport. I think, you know, the doubles, I play doubles. I don't want to move that much. So I'm all about the doubles. But, you know, to see, I enjoy seeing people do what they do best at the highest level. I love to watch that. So I try to pull up clips to watch them. And you know, it might be a wiffle ball, but it comes at you, and I enjoy it. It's fun. So now that I know you play, I have to connect. I haven't quite got my wife on it yet.
I almost ready to retire. I almost ready to retire after I played the first time because I couldn't believe I got whooped that bad. Right? My ego was definitely bruised. My wife and I are looking at each other. We're about to get in a fight, an argument. How you let that ball go? How did that happen? And we're like, oh, hold on a second. I don't even know if this is. I don't know if this is worth the smoke right now.
So picking up the scoring was the big thing for me. Like, all right, what is that? Why is there 3 numbers? I don't understand this.
Well, yeah, the number I can't hit it here, but then I gotta let it go, and then I gotta.
What's the kitchen? We ain't eating in there.
So for those people that are listening to this and you're like, I don't even know what pickleball is, you got to go do some research because it's coming into all these communities and thinking about all the different things that can be done. So you're on the Indiana Sports Court board. So kind of layering with what you do in sports. So talk about just your ability to be a part of that organization, give back, and be a part of, you know, the things that are coming to Indianapolis from sports. Yeah,
and I've been very fortunate to work with the group for well over 15 years, but been on the board for the last 4 years. An amazing organization for the state. And a lot of people think that the impact from what they do only resides in central Indiana, but it is absolutely statewide with a lot of their grant programs and the initiatives that they do throughout the state. Amazing group, but a wealth of information in the sports community. You may know this already, your viewers may not. They were the very first sports commission in the history of sports commissions.
So explain to people, what does a sports commission do? Like, what are they actually doing?
So essentially, those groups come alongside the tourism agencies within a destination to handle the sports promotion. Early on, tourism groups weren't very interested in kind of doing what we call the boots on the ground work for events. That's where these sports commissions were born, to kind of take these events, lead the volunteer development, lead the operational development of those events, and kind of take them to the next level. Now, many of them throughout the country, with ISC being one of the leaders, have their own content. They just created the basketball tournament that happened for the first time, the Indy Classic. They do a lot of other events that they own themselves, but then they also go out and bid on Super Bowls, Final Fours, and all that good stuff as well.
And Indianapolis has been home to it at that level. Obviously, we've had Super Bowls. We're getting ready to have the NBA All-Star game, swimming and diving. Absolutely. Like, every time you look around, we're doing some cool things. I got involved with IC last year with NBA 2K, and being able to host a panel and being down there, just completely fascinated by that side of sport itself.
Esports. You got to see it up close and personal, and kind of at the high level, but it's at the grassroots level, it continues to grow. And there are events out there that sell out 50,000 seat arenas to watch somebody play a video game. Just think about that. It is amazing kind of where we've come, but that's another one that it's going to continue to be here. It's going to grow, and a lot of the youth programs within this area are looking at trying to figure out how they can get kids involved, because it's evolved from everybody thinking that kids are sitting in the basement eating Doritos, drinking Mountain Dew, playing a video game. You can tell with some of those NBA 2K athletes, they had very regimented programs where they had to go train and do all the stuff that they needed to do to be athletes. So it'll also be nice to see kind of how that one grows.
Yeah. It's hard now for parents to be like, go do something worthwhile. You're like, I am, because they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars playing this video game now.
Twitch and all the other things that have come along to help kind of grow that sport.
I want to talk about being a business owner, because you're involved in this sports and philanthropically, but you're also running a business. So what's been the journey for you now as a young not young business, right? Because it's a new business for you, and your business journey of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I've been dabbling in this my whole life. I probably failed at 10 businesses before this one came about. I started off in kind of doing real estate, and that's kind of still going for me. So I got something right there. But I've always been one to want to have something that I owned and operated. And the reason my company is called Legacy Sports Group is because I finally realized that I want to develop and create a legacy for my family. And that's what we're doing here. And being a young entrepreneur, and I'll still say young, we're about the same age, but I'm gonna call myself young. It has its challenges. I think we've talked about it a little bit, whereas you want to do, I love going into communities, helping shape strategy and doing a lot of that legwork on the front end to kind of really understand their needs, but payroll still has to get done. All of the logistics over here still have to get done. And with a small company like ours, everybody wears multiple hats. So it's been a very tremendously fun journey. I've enjoyed it. I've gotten to meet people like yourself who have given me even little nuggets to kind of help understand how you should do things to do it the right way. So it's something that I will never forget, this journey, and hopefully I'm doing this for a long time and kind of continue to grow it and see what happens when the next generation comes around.
When you think about taking this business and now legacy, we have had this conversation about our kids and our family. So when you talk about your family, give me the rundown of how are you trying to build a business, right? Stay connected to the community and be a great dad.
Yeah. It doesn't leave much time.
And husband.
Yeah. It doesn't leave much time to be home and just be idle, I will tell you that. I think I see you more at Mojo Up than anywhere else, because we're, both my boys are there. My daughter is at IUPUI. She's a junior there, so she helps out a lot. She's in the house with us, but keeping them busy and then kind of keeping the wife busy and keeps us all busy. Yeah. But we try to find our downtime. We're excited about it. A couple of weeks we're going to go to spring break, and it'll be literally the first time we've all been together to just kind of, no basketball, no football, just kind of with each other and hanging out. So I am one that does not like to sit and just be idle. So I enjoy the hustle and bustle. That's why you see me at a lot of the practices, games, because where else I'm gonna be, you know? And 100% of my energy is in those two boys right now because, you know, I'm trying to teach them how I was taught at a young age. My grandfather, my father, my stepfather, huge contributors to who I am. And, you know, I want to just kind of be there for them.
You know, there's also a lot of conversation around raising young black boys in America today. You know, as a father, what are you trying to pass on to them as you're trying to go? I'm trying to develop them, but I'm also a little scared for them, you know, trying to help them navigate these pitfalls and some of the stuff that they don't know the world's bringing to them. You know, what's that like for you?
Yeah, at 8 and 11, I tackle these topics very delicately. A lot of times they come home with information that happens at school and, you know, they're curious as to why things happen. You know, I don't catch them looking at the news that much, but they're always on YouTube. And YouTube is their version of news. That what they see there is their reality. So I try to explain to them. And, you know, ironically enough, we ended up getting an Oculus a couple of weeks ago, and my oldest son was playing it. And there's those games where you can get on there and you can play with other groups of individuals. And this particular game that he was playing, there's an individual on there saying some really off the wall stuff, and I was like, RJ, do you hear what he's saying? He's like, yeah, but I'd just be ignoring it. And I was like, well, let's talk about that because I want you to understand what you're hearing such that when it happens to you and you need to communicate that to somebody, you know what to say. Because again, they are exposed to so much more than we were at our age. We were, you know, a different generation now, but they get exposed, you know, because of the devices and the access to digital content. They get it much quicker than we get it. So while I don't think it's time to have conversations, it's time. So we kind of take those in little nuggets.
And what is your hope? You know, because some people feel like America's crazed with sports, right? There's too much emphasis on sports and playing too many different things, you know. But I have my personal opinion of the purpose of sports, and it's less about wins and losses than it is about a lot of other things. What's your dad or coach dad, a business owner? You know, what's your mindset around the role that sports is supposed to play today?
Yeah, you know, I think in a lot of instances, what I'm able to see from the corporate side at the workplace, sports helps build communities. When you look at what happened in Westfield, or you look at what happened in Noblesville with Mojo, and similar with other communities throughout the country, people rally around sports. And there's a lot of opportunities for there to be lessons learned, whether it's us as adults or kids. And, you know, as a dad, I think that there's a lot kids learn through sports. Obviously, how to work as a group. You know, what we do in this environment of in the workplace, it's a collaborative effort. It's a teams coming together to accomplish tasks. So kids learn those you know, those techniques and what they need to do, and it teaches you how to fail. You know, my oldest son, he's the worst loser ever. But he's gotten better over time, and he understands that, okay, this is what I need to do to get better, or this is what so one thing we do in the car, so typically we're always running from gym to gym, so we take 2 cars. And after his game, he never likes to get in the car with me. He always wants to ride with his mom, because he knows when he gets in with me, we're going to kind of recap everything, because I'm at the scorer's table keeping score. I want to be close. And the one thing we say is, okay, what can you do to get better next time? And, you know, he was like, I don't know. I was like, well, let's go. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned through sports.
One of the things I learned a long time, I used to teach this, is that, you know, for a lot of kids, and this is a beware for many parents, and I'm speaking to myself too, is that kids have historically said the worst part of sports is the car ride home with mom and dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I instituted this, and you said one of the pieces I always ask, you know, what was your favorite part? You know, what did you enjoy? And then, you know, what do you want to do better next time, right? And what I had to learn, because I'm coaching too, is that, you know, that's the dad conversation. And I've also learned that there are times when like stuff happens and I want to deal with the coach, that I always address it at the facility before we leave.
Yeah.
Because once we leave there, I go, okay, well now I'm going from coach to dad. Yeah. And dad's role for me is about supporting you, encouraging you, because at the age where my kids are, 10 and 7, I just want you to love it enough that you'll come back and do it again next year.
Absolutely.
Right? And really nothing that you did in this game is really dependent upon what's going to happen with your future. Now the lessons you learn. And I will get in their butt, if you're not hustling, giving your best effort. But I don't care how many shots you made or how many points you scored. So I just, and I grew up playing sports, and I just love, of what you can learn, from the game.
Absolutely.
What do you think is the role of these professional athletes, in how you think about the game? Charles Barkley we grew up in that Charles Barkley age, and he said, I'm not a role model. Yeah. And his point was, it should be your mom or dad or somebody that's with you, but not me. Yeah. What's your opinion there?
I don't want to be the grumpy old man in the room, but I also believe that is true. I think that these athletes, while they have certain responsibility, it is not their responsibility to model to be. Let me rephrase that. It is, when they're in the public light, it is somewhat their responsibility to be able to model what an athlete should do, but our kids should not look at them as the end-all be-all to who they should become. And, my kid loves Odell Beckham Jr., my 11-year-old, big fan of Odell, and he always is asking, well, why is he moving to all these different teams? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of things that go on in the NFL or this, that, and the other. But that's what he looks at and sees as success. Now, as he gets older, when he starts reading all the articles, doing all this stuff, will he still view it as that? Maybe, maybe not. But I think those guys, they have they need to do their job, which is, they're a professional athlete, and, there's certain things that come with that. But at the end of the day, the people who are a little closer to these individuals should be the ones that are shaping.
And it's challenging because they're so visible now, and they can watch them and everything that they do, and they're learning so much of it. Listen, LeBron and all the other cast of NBA guys, they're not responsible for raising my kid by any means, but boy, they are influential and the things that they do and how they say it and so on.
Well,
so
you think about, if we didn't catch Jordan during the game, when would you? I mean, you maybe see a news clip about him, but that was it.
Right.
You didn't see him.
I had Come Fly With Me, which was a VHS tape that I had. I could pop in there and watch it, but other than that, there was nothing.
You couldn't pull up clips of him on YouTube and see what he did. So definitely different.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat here. Yep. We got your favorites, right? And so I'm gonna ask you a question, one word answer, or a phrase, right? So hot seat. Here we go. Favorite place to vacation?
Florida.
Coolest city you've been to?
Oh, New Mexico.
Favorite homemade meal?
Lasagna.
A restaurant you love?
Oh, man. Puccini's.
A brand that you like to support?
Nike.
Favorite sports team?
Bears.
Bears. College?
IU.
Last TV show you binge watched?
Game of Thrones.
A must-watch movie?
Remember the Titans.
That's such a good movie. A great book you'd recommend?
Dare to Fail. I never even think of who the author of that is, but I will think of it before we leave so I can give it to you.
Favorite type of music?
R&B.
Hype song?
Anything by Baby, Lil Baby.
A nonprofit you love to support?
So I do a lot of work, Boys and Girls Club. I do a lot of work with them just because of the space I'm in. But my wife has gotten me into many others that I'd love to take time to talk through. But Boys and Girls Club is one that I've personally been involved with.
Awesome. Last question. I always say to our guests, at the end of this all, there's a number, and you have this dash, and this dash represents your life, and then there's your other final number. And there's going to be a bunch of people talking about William. How they knew you, their experiences, what you taught them. Like, what do you want them to ultimately remember or say about you?
He was fair. That's one of the things I try to pride myself on, is being fair and equitable in many situations. Oftentimes when I'm in a room, I'm the only person of my color in that room, so there are certain responsibilities that come with that, and I have owned that over the years, and I recognize that. But I've never put myself in a position where I burn bridges. I always like to be very upfront, but respectful to others' opinions, and I typically try to be very fair in whatever outcomes that result.
I love that, my man. Well, hey, thanks for coming by today and chopping up with me. You get the honors of wrapping up our show today.
All right. That's a wrap.